All right, so part 2 of this video. If you didn't catch the first part, make sure you check it out. It's earlier in the channel. We're going through how to analyze a market for short-term rental. So in the last video, I talked about how to kind of narrow your search results down to 3 to 5 different markets you're interested in. And I also talked about how to do your research on the regulations and figuring out what the future of the regulations will be, so you can make sure you're investing in an area that is favorable to short-term rentals from a regulatory perspective. Now let's go one step further and talk about the remainder of the analysis that I do to find the right markets to invest in for a short-term rental. So the next thing I'm going to do from here is really just kind of hone in on the returns on that market. So I want to do a couple of things here. One is I want to look at what the competition is. And this is actually very, very counterintuitive from what most people do. So I know that most people, when they're looking at markets, they'll go and they'll see that in a given market, let's say they go to Airbnb, they see how many listings there are and there's 10,000. Well, a lot of investors look at that and they say, way too much competition, I'd rather not invest there. For me, it's actually the opposite. If I see a market that has only a couple hundred properties or less than 100 properties, I'm going to be very, very critical and skeptical of that market. Because if I see a market that has thousands of properties in that market, it means there's lots of demand there, there's lots of opportunity, and most importantly, it also tells me that I'm going to have reliable data to inform my decisions for where to invest, what property to invest in. As you can imagine, if there's only 90 properties in a given area, then when I'm looking at, say, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom property in a particular part of town, there's probably not going to be more than a handful of properties to compare to in order to figure out how much this property is going to bring in order to just analyze that property and make sure I'm making a good investment. Whereas if there's more properties, I'm going to have a larger data set, so I'm going to have much more confidence in the numbers that I generate from my analysis. Now, the obvious downside is competition, and my answer to that is just be better. Right? Again, I don't mean to say that in a kind of cocky or arrogant way. It's just that when you're competing in a market, the reality is there's going to be enough demand to fill up the top performers all day long, right? Really, the people that have to worry about competition are the people that are in the bottom 75% of the market. Because the reality is, if you're in the top 10 to 20 to 25% of the market, you're going to be competing, but you're really going to get booked either way, right? Because if there's, let's say, 100 properties in a given market, and there's 25 people or 30 people that are actually looking to book properties in that market, the top 25 properties are going to get booked. The bottom 75 are going to get fewer bookings. And that's going to happen over and over and over again. A lot of people look at it and they see, well, if there's all this competition, then all 100 listings are going to get a random distribution of bookings, and suddenly everyone is going to perform worse. It's just not the case. Those top 25 listings, they're going to get all the bookings or the lion's share of them, and they're going to be eating well, while the bottom 75 listings, they are the ones that are really going to suffer. So as long as you have a really great listing, a really great pricing, really great photos, all that sort of stuff, you're really going to be able to beat most of the competition. Because again, you have to remember, most of the people listing their properties on Airbnb and other short-term rental sites are amateurs. So you really just need to have the right training, work with someone like myself to be able to have the right tools and right strategies, and you can beat the competition. And that's far, far easier to do than the other alternative. Because if you go and invest in a market that has very low competition, you might just be fighting against the actual overall market forces. There might just not be enough demand in that area whatsoever to actually get a good return. And there's really not much you can do about that. Whereas if you're in a market where there is demand, then you don't have to fight those forces. You just have to make sure that you actually get the demand. And that's a relatively simple and easy thing to do. So that's one of the big things I look for, is I would like to look for a market that has a couple thousand properties or more, ideally. Doesn't mean I'll never invest in a smaller market. It just means I have to be much more critical of the data. Guys, just want to take a quick break here to say that for those of you watching who want to build cash flow and long-term wealth by purchasing Airbnbs and short-term rental properties, there's a link in the description right down below for a free training that'll walk you through my exact strategy for investing successfully in Airbnbs. Now, if you're not ready to actually buy properties and you want to get started managing other people's properties on Airbnb the same way I got started and build a full-time income managing other people's properties, there's actually another free training linked in the description down below as well that'll be a really great fit for you. So whether you want to invest in short-term rental properties and actually build amazing cash flow and long-term wealth by acquiring the assets, buying the properties themselves, or you're looking to earn a full-time income managing other people's properties on Airbnb, we've got some awesome trainings that are linked in the description down below that'll definitely help you out. When you sign up for the trainings, we're also going to send you a few other tools and resources completely for free just to help you get started. Again, the links to sign up are in the description down below, and both trainings and all the tools are completely free. So make sure to register for the trainings, links in the description down below. The next thing I'm going to look at is just comparing the average sale price, the average home sale price in that area for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedroom properties to the average revenue that a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedroom property can generate. And so I'm going to need a couple different data points there. One, I'm going to need to talk to my realtor to get comps on what properties have actually sold for. I don't want to look at the list prices of properties. I want to look at what they've actually sold for. And then I also want to look at data from AirDNA or other data websites to show me how well those properties will do. Now, at this point, I'm not looking for specific properties. I'm just trying to look at what the overall returns are generally going to look like. And so I want to make sure that there's a good there's a good relationship between the revenue that a property can bring in and the sale price. Because obviously, if, for example, a 3-bedroom property is going for $500,000 in this area, but it's only going to bring in $20,000 a year in bookings, there's just no way that the investment is going to make sense. Even if I found an absolute unicorn of a property in that market, it's very, very unlikely that I'm going to get it to be enough of a unicorn to actually make sense as an investment. So generally, we'll see these types of markets be the ultra luxury ones where you're paying for value that is just not going to be able to be value that you can capture, again, booking on AirDNA. So I'll give you an example. There's some cottage markets outside of Toronto where they're by nice lakes, you've got boating, you've got all these different activities. But if you go to one particular market, it's called Muskoka, that area is very prestigious. Lots of people that live in Toronto like to buy properties there because the lakes are prestigious. You can, basically you're part of this cool elite club if you have a cottage up there. And so particularly on this one lake, Lake Joseph in Muskoka, it's a lot of prestige. So properties go for really, really high numbers. The problem is that people that are booking Airbnbs don't really care about being on Lake Joseph. There's no real benefit to them being on that particular lake for the weekend over being on one of the other lakes. That lake is no more beautiful, really. It's just that it's a big lake with lots of prestige, because if you have a cottage there, you get to have a cottage there and tell people you have a cottage there. So in some markets, there's just value that you're going to pay for, that significance that you're going to pay for, things like that, that you're just not really going to be able to capture value from by listing the property on short-term rental websites. So that's where this level of analysis will help you just eliminate certain pockets as not being good for investing. Then from there, what it's also going to do is allow you to highlight some of the best opportunities in that given market. And what I mean by that is you'll be able to identify the sizes of properties that have the best overall returns in general. It's not going to tell you that you have to buy one of those properties, but if you see that, for example, you can buy a 3-bedroom property for $500,000 and it brings in, let's say, $100,000 a year on average, but then if you get that 4-bedroom property, you add that additional bedroom and it's only $510,000 on average or $520,000 on average, but brings in $130,000 or $150,000 a year, well, now you're suddenly only paying $10,000 or $20,000 more for the property in exchange for $10,000 or $20,000 more a year in bookings. So you can see that your ROI is going to be much, much stronger in general on those larger properties, for example. Now, in every given market, there's going to be a different kind of sweet spot where a certain size of property generally will perform better than others. And so that's just good to know so that you can start narrowing your search down if you do go into that market on the ones that are going to give you the best overall return. Now, in another video, we're going to go over, and we've already got other videos on this channel as well that go over how to actually start analyzing properties specifically. But in this video, that's basically my basics of market analysis, actually looking at the markets themselves and figuring out which ones are going to support short-term rental investing for not just right now, but also the long term. Let me know your thoughts. If you have anything that you think I missed, if there's anything else that you like to do when you're analyzing markets, let me know in the comment section down below. If you found this video helpful and useful to you, then make sure you hit that like button. Give me some love on the video. It really helps me to get these videos in front of more people. And absolutely make sure that you be sure to hit that subscribe button as well, so you can stay up to date with the 2 new videos we post every single week on this channel. That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.